What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video on SAT Math from the Scalar Learning channel. And this video is all about how to solve medium level problems. And we're going to be tackling 50 official medium level questions from the College Board. The way I've chosen these problems is I've taken questions 6 through 10 from all of the College Board practice tests. Feeling confident and comfortable with this difficulty level is essential, especially if you're trying to break that 600 level score. If you haven't checked it out, we also have a video already on solving the hardest level SAT problems. Once you master this level, I would definitely recommend checking out that video as well. Without further ado, let's do it. A pediatrician uses the model above to estimate the height h of a boy in inches in terms of the boy's age a in years between the ages of 2 and 5. Based on the model, what is the estimated increase in inches of a boy's height each year? This is essentially an interpreting linear equations question. So what they're talking about is what is the increase, aka what is the change? And we know in linear equations, when we're talking about change, we're talking about slope. Once it's in slope-intercept form, it's that number in front of the variable there. You could also double check something like this by plugging into, and then you'll see if you plug in 2, you get 2 times 3, which is 6, plus this is 34.6. Now plug in 3, you get 9 plus 28, which is 37.6. And once again, you can verify that it is a jump of 3 each year. A is the winner. Boom, done. The formula above gives the monthly payment M needed to pay off loan P dollars at R % annual interest over N months, which of the following gives P in terms of M, R, and N. This is an isolating quantities question. Essentially, you don't even need to read this portion. All you need to see is every answer choice isolates P. All we're going to do is we're going to isolate P up here and see what we get. First, I'm going to multiply both sides by this entire denominator. We're going to get P equals M times 1 plus R over 1200 to the n power minus 1. So on the right side, we have P times R over 1200 times 1 plus R over 1200 to the nth power. A little scrunch there. Now again, the P was on the right, I moved it to the left. That's all good by the commutative property of multiplication. Last but not least, I'm going to divide everything by this side to isolate P. So I'm just going to divide by all of this stuff, right? R over 1200 times 1 plus R over 1200 to the nth power, and that's going to eliminate everything on this side. So now I got P isolated. Now we're going to see which one is closest to what I have here. And you can quickly see that the denominator that we have here is the same as this. They got the minus 1, they got the M on top. B looks like the winner. Boom, done. If A over B equals 2, what is the value of 4B over A? This is basically a system of equations. So what I would do is I would take this equation here and I would isolate one of the variables, preferably A. So we'll multiply both sides by B and we get A equals 2B. Next, I can replace A here with 2B and I got 4B over 2B. Now we can cross off the B's and simplify 4 over 2, which equals 2. C is the winner. Boom, done. What is the solution XY to the system of equations above? These questions exist all over the place on the SAT, and you can solve either using substitution or elimination. I like elimination, so I'm going to show you how to do that. First, I'm going to leave that first equation as is. I'm going to modify the bottom one so that the X's and Y's are all nicely lined up. Next, I'm going to multiply this bottom equation by 3. That way, the x's will be not only lined up, but they'll be opposites in terms of the coefficients. So then I have negative 3x plus 6y equals negative 57. Now I'm going to combine this equation with this by straight up addition. 3x plus negative 3x is nothing. 4y plus 6y is 10y. And negative 23 plus negative 57 is negative 80. Divide both sides by 10. And we get y equals negative 8. Now, since the only solution with negative 8 for the y value is b, but I would definitely recommend double checking with both of the equations to make sure that 3 negative 8 is a viable solution. So here we'd have 3 times 3, which is 9, plus 4 times negative 8, which would be negative 32. Negative 32 plus 9 is indeed negative 23. Over here, we'd have 2 times negative 8, which is negative 16. Minus 3 would indeed be negative 19. Boom, done. For the function g defined above, a is a constant and g of 4 equals 8. What is the value of g of negative 4? So even though this is a function notation problem, this is all about plugging in. So they're telling you that the function value is 8 when the x value is 4. So I'm literally putting in that information. Next, I'm going to solve for a. So I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. Simultaneously, I'll square that. So that's 16a equals negative 16. Divide by 16, and now we have a equals negative 1. So now I can plug that back in, and now I got a perfect function. G of x equals negative x squared plus 24. Once again, now we're trying to find g of negative 4, so it's another opportunity to plug and chug. Negative 4 goes in for x squared, so we get g of negative 4 equals negative 4 squared plus 24. This gives us 16, but then we got a negative in front, so that's negative 16. Remember, these don't cancel out. The squaring happens first, then you apply that negative plus 24, and we once again get 8. A is the winner. In the xy plane above, line L is parallel to line K. I always mark when lines are parallel like so. What is the value of P? So what are they asking here? This is really about linear equations and more importantly about slope, because when two lines are parallel, they have the same slope. We can calculate the slope of line L by stacking the coordinates and subtracting down, because it's the rise, the difference in the y's, 2 minus 0 is 2, over the difference in the runs, 0 minus negative 5, which is the same as 0 plus 5. So now we got a slope of 2/5. That means this line will also have a slope of 2/5. So if we plug this into the slope equation, I would have 0 minus negative 4, that minus that, over p minus 0. And we're going to set this equal to the slope, which is 2/5. Again, double negative becomes a plus. So now I've got 4 over p equals 2 over 5. Last but not least, let's cross multiply. 2p equals 20, and then divide by 2. And we get p has a value of 20 divided by 2, which is 10. D is the winner. Boom, done. If x to the a to the 2 over x to the b to the 2 equals x to the 16th, x is greater than 1, and a plus b equals 2, what is the value of a minus b? Right off the bat, you got to be familiar with your exponent rules. When we've got the same base in this division format, we know that these exponents subtract. So without even thinking, we're going to execute on that. So we've got x to the a squared minus b squared. You see the exponents subtract, and this equals x to the 16th. Next, we want to be thinking factor, factor, factor if possible. So I see a squared minus b squared. Guess what? That's a difference of squares. So I'm going to factor it like a minus b times a plus b. This then equals x to the 16th. Now you'll notice that's beautiful because a plus b has a value of 2. Boom. Now I can rewrite this as x to the a minus b times 2 equals x to the 16. And guess what? Now we can kind of get rid of these bases because they're the same. So we have this equals 16. And since we don't need to find a or b, we just need to know what is a minus b. We know that a minus b times 2 has to be 16, so a minus b must equal 8. Boom, done. The measure a in degrees of an exterior angle of a regular polygon is related to the number of sides n, the polygon by the formula above. If the measure of an exterior angle of a regular polygon is greater than 50, what is the greatest number of sides it can have? So this is a little trickier because it's no calculator, but let's go ahead and plug in that value of 50 degrees into A. So we have n times 50 equals 360. Next, we're going to divide by 50 to isolate n, and we've got n equals cancel, 36 divided by 5. My trick for dividing by 5 mentally is you move the decimal place over once and then double it. So it's 3.6 times 2, which is 7.2. Now here's the deal. We can really only have sides that are in whole numbers. So the question is it 7 or is it 8? So as the value of the exterior angle grows, the number of sides actually decreases. So this is moving down since it's going to be greater than 50. So 8 is not the option. 7 is the winner. Boom, done. The graph of a line in the xy plane has slope 2 and contains the point 1, 8. The graph of a second line passes through the points 1, 2 and 2, 1. If the two lines intersect at point AB, what is the value of A plus B? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create equations for both of these lines. So for this first one, I'm going to use point slope. So I'm going to say y minus 8, again, that's the y value, equals to the slope times x minus 1. That's the x value of that coordinate. For the second one, I'm going to use point slope, but first I have to calculate the slope. So I'm going to stack these coordinates. Doesn't matter which one goes on top or bottom. And then I'm going to subtract down. So I do 2 minus 1, which is 1, over 1 minus 2, which is negative 1. That gives me a slope of negative 1. Now using either of the points, I'll use 1, 2. We'll say with point slope y minus 2 equals negative 1 times x minus 1. Now we're trying to figure out where these two intersect. So what I'm going to do is, since they're set up nicely for the elimination method, I'm going to negate the bottom one, and then I'm going to add the two together. That's going to cancel out those y's. Negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. And since we have the same expression, x minus 1 in here, luckily, I can just sort of add the 2 and the 1 and make it 3 times x minus 1. Now, if you weren't sure about that, you could have also just distributed, and said this one is 2x minus 2. This is x minus 1. And you could just still combine them, and you'd get 3x minus 3, which you'll see we'll get the same thing once we distribute here. Now, to solve for x, I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Boom, boom. And I get x minus 1 equals negative 2. Add 1, add 1, add 1, add 1, boom, and I get x equals negative 1. So that's the a value here, negative 1. Now we need to find the b value, so I'm going to plug it into either equation. Let's plug it into the top one just for fun. So then we get negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2 times 2 equals y minus 8. Again, I plugged in negative 1 for x, so I got negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. Then this is y minus 8 equals negative 4. Last but not least, we're going to add 8 to both sides, and I get y equals positive 4. Now they want a plus b, negative 1 plus 4, which is 3. Boom, done. Which of the following equations has a graph in the xy plane for which y is always greater than or equal to negative 1? Now, there's two ways you can think about a problem like this. Of course, if you can find a value of x in any of these equations where you're going to get a value less than or equal to negative 1, then you know it's out. The second way is if you imagine the graphs and what they must look like, you could probably figure this out as well. So we're going to show you both ways. So here, if I plug in 0, I'll get negative 2. That's less than negative 1. A is out. Again, plug in 0, I get negative 2, out. For D, same thing. If I plug in 0, I'll get negative 2, which means C has to be the winner. Now, when I think about what these graphs actually look like, this is an absolute value, but with a vertex at 0, negative 2, which is, of course, below negative 1, so that's gone. This is a parabola with also a vertex at 0, negative 2. Last but not least, an x cubed function goes like this. So it's actually going to go all the way down to negative infinity and up to positive infinity for the y's. C is going to be a parabola going up, but it's going to have a vertex at 2, 0, which means all the values will actually be greater than 0. If xy is a solution to the system of equations above, what is the value of x minus y? Now, what you might be tempted to do is solve for x and y like normal here, but this is one of the points where the College Board is actually giving you a layup if you see the nice trick that's embedded within this problem. Instead of trying to do anything too fancy, with a question as early as number 6, you can see that if all you do is if you just add these together, you're going to get to the answer super quickly. 2x plus 3x is 5x. Negative 3y plus negative 2y is negative 5y. And you add those together and you get negative 20. Now watch how simple this is. If you divide everything by 5, you get x minus y equals negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4. And that's what we wanted. X minus y, which is negative 4. Now again, if you do solve for x and y independently, fine, you're still going to get the right answer, but this is a nice little shortcut if you spot it. The function f is defined by a polynomial. Some values of x and f of x are shown in the table above. Which of the following must be a factor of f of x? To be a factor, the function value has to be 0. So we know that 4 is involved in the factor. The only one of these that has 4 as a factor is this guy. But now I'm going to explain why this is a factor. If you were to factor this polynomial, you should get x minus 4 like so, if 0 is going to be the function output for 4. The reason why is if you have a bunch of binomials, trinomials, it doesn't matter, all multiplying this factored binomial, you know that if you plug 4 into this, regardless of what happens here, you're going to zero out everything. So this is why x minus 4 must be a factor. Done. The line y equals kx plus 4, where k is a constant, is graphed in the xy plane. If the line contains the point CD, where c does not equal 0 and d does not equal 0, what is the slope of the line in terms of c and d? Once again, we are in a plug and chug situation. So we know we have a coordinate where the x value is c, the y value is d. Now this looks really confusing because it's abstract, but all you're going to do is plug in d for y, since that is the y value, plug in c for x, so it's kc plus 4. And then you're going to think, and you're going to say, wait a minute, the slope is what they're trying to find, and the slope up here, because it's in slope-intercept form, is k. Now that I've done this, all I got to do is isolate k, and I'm going to have my slope. So we're going to subtract 4, kc equals d minus 4. Then to isolate k, we're going to divide by c, boom, k equals d minus 4 over c. A is the winner, done. In the system of equations above, k is a constant and x and y are variables. For what value of k will the system of equations have no solution? The way we're going to have no solution with two lines is if they are parallel, meaning they're going to have the same slope but a different y-intercept. What I always like to do in a question like this is put both of these in slope-intercept form so I can see their slopes very clearly. For the top one, let's isolate y, and it becomes negative 3y equals negative kx plus 4. How did I get that? I subtracted kx from both sides. Last but not least, divide both sides by negative 3. Y equals negative k over negative 3. The negatives cancel out, and I get k over 3x plus negative 4/3. Great. Now let's do the same down here. We have negative 5y equals, again, I'm subtracting 4x from both sides to move it to the other side, plus 7. Then we're going to divide by negative 5. Boom, boom. And these negatives cancel out, and I get y equals 4/5 x minus 7/5, or plus negative 7/5. Now, I already see that the y-intercepts are different, so we're good to go there. Now all we have to do is get a value of k to set these two slopes equal to each other. So why don't I just set the slopes equal to each other like I just said? K over 3 needs to equal 4 over 5. What value of k will make this true? Let's cross multiply and see. I get 5k equals 12. Last but not least, let's divide by 5. Divide by 5. K equals 12/5. A is the winner. Done. In the xy plane, the parabola with equation y equals x minus 11 squared intersects the line with equation y equals 25 at 2 points A and B. What is the length of AB? First of all, let's understand what this looks like. This is a parabola going up like so, and y equals 25 is a line coming across like this. A and B are going to occur at these intersection points, and we want to know what is this length. So all we need to know are the x values of points A and B and subtract them. To do that, all we got to do is a little substitution. I can take this 25 and plug it into y right there. That gives us 25 equals x minus 11 squared. Now I just got to solve this equation for x, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides. This gives me x minus 11 equals, now this is the part that's tricky, you got to remember that square root of 25 is not just 5, it is plus or minus 5. So this is actually two equations. So we're going to solve for x minus 11 equals positive 5, and x minus 11 equals negative 5. We're going to add 11 to both sides here, and we get x equals 16. And here we're going to add 11 as well, and we're going to get x equals 6. So that means A is at 625, and B is at 1625. Which means that the distance is the difference of these x values, right? Because the y values are the same. So what's 16 minus 6? 10. Boom. Done. If a minus b over b equals 3/7, which of the following must also be true? This one's a little tricky because all of these are not equivalent. Like here they have a over b, here they have a plus b over b. So my first instinct in a proportion like this, no matter what the answer choices say, is to cross multiply. So here I'm going to get 3 times b, which is 3b, equals 7 times a minus b. And I'll go ahead and distribute that as I write it out. 7a minus 7b, because the 7 multiplies both of those pieces. Then I'm going to follow my basic instinct of combining like terms, like so. and I get 7A equals 10B. Now I'm going to take a look again at these answer choices, and it looks like B might be the winner. So I'm going to follow this through and try and get A over B. So I'm going to divide both sides by B, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 7. And it looks as though A over B does indeed equal 10/7. B is the winner. Done. While preparing to run a marathon, Amelia created a training schedule in which the distance of her longest run every week increased by a constant amount. If Amelia's training schedule requires that her longest run in week 4 is a distance of 8 miles, and her longest run in week 16 is a distance of 26, which of the following best describes how the distance Amelia runs changes between week 4 and week 16 of her training schedule? What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually plot this out in a little bit of a table. We can do this multiple ways, but let's look at week 4 and week 16. Now here we need 8 miles and here we need 26, and it's supposed to go up by a constant amount every time. We can put in some intermediate values, 8 and 12, and since we've now broken this up into 3 jumps, we can see, oh, what's the distance from 8 to 26? Oh, that's 18. So now I can divide that 18 up by 3 and say I'm going to jump by 6 miles every 4 weeks. So this gives me 14 here, 20 here, and that indeed adds up to 26. Now at this point, do we have the answer of it goes up by 6 miles every 4 weeks? No, we don't. But we can write that value out as follows: 6 miles every 4 weeks, and see if we can simplify that. Well, we can divide the top and bottom by 4, since they are talking every week in some of these cases. 6 divided by 4 is 1.5 miles, and 4 divided by 4 is 1 week. So it looks like it's going up 1.5 miles every week. And that makes sense because, again, 4 times 1.5 is 6, which would explain this jump. This gives us the answer of D. Amelia increases the distance by 1.5 miles each week. Boom, done. Which of the following equations represents a line that is parallel to the line with equation y equals negative 3x plus 4? Guess what? It means that we're looking for a line with a slope of negative 3. But they didn't give it to us in slope-intercept form for these guys. These are in standard form. So what I would do is I would try to isolate y in each of these equations. So first, this would be 2y equals negative 6x plus 15. Again, why? Because I subtracted 6x from both sides. Then I'm going to divide by 2, and we get y equals negative 3x plus, right, 7.5 or 15 halves. Guess what? That's what we wanted, right? Same slope, different y-intercept. A is the winner. Boom, done. If A equals 2, what is the solution set of the equation above? Again, we're given a value for A, so we're going to plug and chug. Square root of x minus 2 equals x minus 4. Now you can do this one of 2 ways. You can either start plugging in the answers to all of these and see which ones work and which ones don't, or you can solve it algebraically. I'm going to show you both ways. So first I see 3 and 6. Let's try both of them. If I plug in 3, I get 3 minus 2 square root equals 3 minus 4. This gives me the square root of 1 equals negative 1. This is a problem because even though negative 1 squared is 1, on the SAT, when we take the square root, we're only taking that positive value in this case for these equations. So this is not valid. 3 is out. That eliminates A and C. Next, let's try 2 just for fun. Well, 2 minus 2 would be 0. 0 does not equal 2 minus 4. That's out. So we know that D has got to be right, but let's check anyways. 6 minus 2 equals 6 minus 4, like so. That's square root of 4 equals 2. That is true. D is the winner. Done. If we did want to do it algebraically, which is totally fine, you can just square both sides as follows, and we get x minus 2 equals, and I'll FOIL this out as well, x squared minus 8x plus 16. Why do I get that? Because this becomes x minus 4 times x minus 4. So don't forget that. And then you got to FOIL as follows. Boom, boom. Then we're going to bring everything over. We're going to say 0 equals x squared. So I'm subtracting x from both sides. Negative 8x minus x is negative 9x. And then we got 16 plus 2 is 18. Then we factor. So what 2 numbers multiply to positive 18 add to negative 9? That would be negative 3 and negative 6. This gives me the solutions of 3, 6, but you got to check for extraneous solutions. Kind of like we already showed you up here. You plug in 3 and you see it's an extraneous solution, which means that 6 is the winner. Boom, done. If t plus 5 over t minus 5 equals 10, what is the value of t? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by t minus 5. So I get t plus 5 equals 10 times t minus 5. Then I'm going to distribute. T plus 5 equals 10t minus 50. Then we're going to combine like terms by subtracting t from both sides. Boom. And simultaneously adding 50 to both sides. Boom. This gives me 9t equals 55. Last but not least, divide both sides by 9, and I get t equals 55 over 9. D is the winner. Done. Which of the following is equivalent to the sum of the expressions a squared minus 1 and a plus 1? Now notice these are like terms and these are not. So those combined, negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So we're left with a squared plus a. A is the winner. Done. Jackie has 2 summer jobs. She works as a tutor, which pays $12 an hour, and she works as a lifeguard, which pays $9.50 per hour. She can work no more than 20 hours per week, but she wants to earn at least $220 per week. Which of the following systems of inequalities represents this situation in terms of x and y, where x is the number she tutors and y is the number of hours she works as a lifeguard? So what I like to do in these types of questions, I don't look at the answers. I like to make the equations myself. So I'm thinking, first of all, x is a number of hours, y is a number of hours, and it says she can work no more, meaning less than or equal to 20. And immediately I see that one's wrong and that one's wrong. So now I'm down to these two. So since x is the number of hours she tutors and 12 is that salary, it would be 12x plus 9.5y needs to earn at least 220. And we see C is the winner and we're done. Now you could also be like, hey, I know it's supposed to be at least and I can immediately eliminate this. That's fine if you can see a shortcut and you do catch something where you can quickly go to C and feel confident and move on. But I always say, as a general approach, I think it's great to derive the equations yourself and then check the answers. In air, the speed of sound s in meters per sound is a linear function of the air temperature T in degrees Celsius and is given by this equation. Which of the following statements is the best interpretation of the number 331.4 in this context? So first, this is an interpreting linear equations problem, and we know that this is not the slope, it's the y-intercept, which means it should be the starting something. And in this sense, it's probably the starting speed of sound, the initial speed of sound when this zeroes out, aka when we've got, in this case, 0 degrees Celsius. Again, what's the strategy? I'm trying to figure out an understanding of this number before I even look at the answer choices. Now that we've established that, let's check it out. The speed of sound in meters per second at 0 degrees Celsius, that's exactly what we said. A is the winner. Done. If xy is a solution of the system of equations above and x is greater than 0, what is the value of x times y? Here we're going to go with substitution since we have a quadratic and linear system. So I'm going to substitute in x squared for y. So we have 2x squared plus 6 equals, and I'm going to go ahead and distribute while I'm writing this out, 2x plus 6. Now we have a quadratic, so we're going to set everything equal to 0. Before I do that, I see a nice little trick here because I can divide everything by 2 and get rid of that coefficient. So I get x squared plus 3 equals x plus 3. These cancel out, and I'm going to subtract both sides by x. X squared minus x equals 0. Now I'm going to factor in x out as follows. Boom. And what two values of x are going to give me 0 here? Well, of course, 0 is going to give me 0 out here. But then in here, it would be 1 because 1 minus 1 is 0. 1 is the x value. But what about the y value? Well, to find that, I'm going to go ahead and plug it into either equation. Let's do this one. So y equals 1 squared, which means y equals 1 as well. What is the value of xy? 1 times 1 is 1. Boom, done. If a squared plus b squared equals z and ab equals y, which of the following is equivalent to 4z plus 8y? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sub in a squared plus b squared for z and sub in ab for y here. Now I'm going to distribute. Now I get 4a squared plus 4b squared plus 8ab. Now this is tricky because these are all in this factored format. What you may not realize is if you rearrange this as follows by putting the b squared out here, you actually see that this is a perfect square foiled out. So then to factor it, I'm going to get 2a here because that multiplies to 4a squared, 2b here, and then a plus in the middle, which means it's simply 2a plus 2b squared. Now, if you recognize this, great. But if you don't, what are your options? Well, again, you can do something where you choose values to verify. So for example, if I choose a is 1 and b is 2, I can plug them into this expression and see what value I get. So mentally, 4 times 1 squared is 4, plus 8 times 1 times 2 is 16, plus 2 squared, which is 4 times 4 is 16. So this gives me a value of 36. Now, if I plug in 1 and 2 into all of these, the one that gives me 36 is going to be the winner. Here, I would plug in 1 and 2 and get 1 plus 4, which is 5 squared, is 25. Nope. Here, I would get 4 plus 8, which is 12 squared, is 144. Here, I would get 4 plus 16, which is 20 squared, which is 400. So the only one that works is here, where I get 2 plus 4, which is 6 squared, is 36. Boom, done. If x equals 2/3 y and y equals 18, what is the value of 2x minus 3? So what we're going to do is we're going to plug in 18 into this equation to find the value of y. So x equals 2/3 times 18. 2/3 of 18 is, of course, 12. Plug 12 in over here. 2 times 12 is 24. Minus 3 is, of course, 21. Boom, done. A bricklayer uses the formula N equals 7LH to estimate the number of bricks N needed to build a wall that is L feet long and H feet high. Which of the following correctly expresses L in terms of N and H? This is an isolating quantities question, and as soon as you spot it, and you'll spot it by looking down here at the answer choices and seeing they've isolated L in every case. As soon as you've spotted that, you can pretty much ignore everything but the main formula, and then all you have to do is isolate L. That's it. To get L by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 7H, divide both sides by 7H, cancel, cancel, and I get L equals N over 7H. This means that the only viable option is C, even though the L's on the different side, doesn't matter. C is the winner. Boom, done. The table above shows some values of the function w and t. For which value of x is wx plus t of x equal to x? Basically, what they're saying is when this is added to this, in what case is it going to be equal to this? So again, function notation can be a little confusing, but once you kind of break it down and understand what they're asking, it's really not that bad. Is -1 plus -3 equal to 1? No. Is 3 plus -1 equal to 2? Yes. Is 4 plus 1 equal to 3? No. Is 3 plus 3 equal to 4? No. And is -1 plus 5 equal to 5? No. So the only answer is when x equals 2, b, done. If square root of x plus square root of 9 equals 64, what is the value of x? So this is a radical question, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the square root of 9, which I can, because the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 64 is, of course, 8. That's 8 times 8 is 64. Now I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, boom, and I get square root of x equals 5. Last but not least, I'm going to get x out of the square root by squaring both sides. Inverse operations, right? Squaring is the opposite of the square root. So now I get x equals, what's 5 squared? 25. C is the winner. Done. Jamie is preparing for a bicycle race. His goal is to bicycle an average of at least 280 miles per week for 4 weeks. He bicycled 240 the first week, 310 the second week, 320 the third week. Which inequality can be used to represent the number of miles X Jamie could bicycle on the 4th week to meet his goal? So again, in a question like this, I want to set it up myself. I don't want to look at the answers and kind of figure stuff out. I like to set it up myself and then look at the answer choices. So right now he's biked 240, 310, and 320 miles. And notice it's easy for me to pull those values because I've underlined all the numbers. Always do that. So what we're going to do with these values is we're going to add them up plus that 4th value, the X value, he's going to do the 4th week. Then we're saying the average of this, meaning if I divide everything by 4, it's got to be at least 280. That is greater than or equal to 280. So that's my equation. Now, I don't see that equation in the answer choices, but that's fine because what did they do? They must have taken I know my equation's right. They must have taken my equation and manipulated it. And look what they did here in answer choice D. It's basically identical except they multiplied both sides by 4. That cancels this out, but then it's still the same thing. So now we can see that D is the winner. Boom, done. A company that makes wildlife videos purchases camera equipment for $32,400. The equipment depreciates in value at a constant rate for 12 years, after which it is considered to have no monetary value. How much is the camera equipment worth 4 years after it is purchased? So there's a few ways to look at this problem, but I want to look at it as a linear equation. And the way I'm thinking about it is at 0 years after it's bought, it has a value of $32,400. After 12 years, it then has a value of $0. This is 2 coordinates for a linear equation. Now I can calculate the slope by subtracting down, right? So I've got 32,400 change in y over negative 12, 0 minus 12, negative 12. To get the slope, I now do 32,400 divided by negative 12. That goes in twice. Boom. Bring down the 4 and 7. And then it's going to be 2,700. So now I got the slope. So now check. I can see now it goes down by 2,700 every year. Now my equation would be y equals negative 2,700x. Again, that was negative 12, right? Plus 32,400. Boom. And then what are they saying? 4 years after it's purchased. Guess what? That's my x value. Plug and chug. Plug 4 in. You get y equals negative 2,700 times 4 plus 32,400. And of course, this is no calculator, so being decent with mental math definitely helps here. 4 times 2,700 is negative 10,800. And then combining that with 32,400, we get 21,600. C, done. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression above? It looks like what they did is they completed the square and put it into vertex form. So that's great if you recognize that. And I'm going to show you a second way to approach this problem if that's not clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it into vertex form as well by completing the square, which you should know how to do. So here's what you do. You take this middle value of 6 and you take half of that, which is 3, and you square it and add it. So 3 squared is, of course, 9. Now I still have the 4 out here, but I can't just add 9 to an expression. That changes the value of the expression. So to keep it the same, I'm going to also subtract 9 out here. That way I'm not doing anything to change the value. It's still the same. Then I'm going to take this quantity and I'm going to factor it. It's going to be a perfect square. That's what completing the square means. We create a nice, beautiful, perfect square. So if I factor this, now it's x plus 3 squared. Then I combine these guys, 4 minus 9, and we get negative 5. This gives me B as the winner, and we'd be done. But now let's say you don't see that, okay? Another great way to attack this problem is to pick a nice value for X, plug it in, and see which one matches down here. Now, I know you might think 0 or 1 would be the easiest, and you could do that, but there are certain cases where 0 or 1 may give you multiple hits in the multiple choice. I'm a little wary of that. Instead, I like to go with the safer choice like 2. It's still not too big, but should be safe. So if I plug in 2 up here, I'd get 4 plus 2 times 6 is 12, plus 4, that gives me a value of 20. So now I'm going to plug 2 into each of these and see which one yields an answer of 20. If I plug in 2 here, I get 5 squared, 25 plus 5 is 30. Nope. Plug in 2 here, I get negative 1 squared, which is 1, plus 5 is 6. Nope. If I plug in 2 here, I get negative 1 squared, which is 1, minus 5 is negative 4. Nope. But when I plug in 2 here, I get 2 plus 3, which is 5, squared is 25, minus 5 is 20. That's double verification. Done. Ken is working this summer as part of a crew on a farm. He earned $8 per hour for the first 10 hours he worked this week. So that's $8 per hour for the first 10 hours. Because of his performance, his crew leader raised his salary to $10 per hour for the rest of the week. Ken saves 90% of his earnings from each week. So again, I don't know how many hours he works the rest of the week, but it'd be like that. It'd be adding these two. And then 90% means we're taking 0.9 of all of this that will be saved. What is the least number of hours he must work the rest of the week to save at least $270 for the week? So I basically got an expression showing what he's going to make. So 8 times 10, 10 times x, and x is the number of additional hours he has to work so that he can save at least. Now, again, of course, it's greater than or equal to, but we could probably suffice with the equal sign because it won't really matter. But let's use the greater than or equal to just to be nice and accurate representative of the language. Now look at that. We've got the equation. We've got everything we need to solve right off the bat as we're reading it. And again, that's another piece of advice I'd love to offer is build the equation or the inequality in this case as you're reading the question. I know that really helps me a lot. So what I'm going to do simultaneously, I'm going to divide both sides by 0.9 while simplifying this in here. So I'm going to do the 0.9s are out. 8 times 10 is 80 plus 10x, which is greater than or equal to, and 270 divided by 0.9, it's like 270 divided by 9 is 30, but it's 0.9, so it becomes 300. Now I'm going to subtract 80 from both sides. Boom. 10x is greater than or equal to 220. Divide by 10, divide by 10, and x has to be at least 22. Now again, just for fun, I'm going to actually quickly run it through mentally. If Ken works 22 more hours at $10 an hour, of course that makes 220 bucks plus the 80 he already made, and that does give him 300. 90% of 300 is of course 270 because it's like 0.9 times 300 or 9 times 30, 270, boom, done. Marisa needs to hire at least 10 staff members for an upcoming project. The staff members will be made up of junior directors who will be paid $640 and senior directors who will be paid $880 per week. Her budget for paying the staff members is no more than $9,700. She must hire at least 3 junior directors, at least, and at least 1 senior director. Which of the following systems of inequalities represents the conditions described if X is junior and Y is senior? Now again, as we glance down at the answers, we see that all we have to do is identify the correct system of inequalities. So I'm going to start with some of the easier ones where it says X is the number of junior directors, Y is the number of senior directors. She needs at least 3 junior directors, that's X. So at least 3 junior directors and at least 1 senior director. I can see that A and B have these correctly. C is incorrect and D is incorrect because you'll notice they have less than or equal to. All right, now I'm going to go back up here. Now I just want to zone in on A and B. So now I'm going to make another inequality from what they said. So it says at the top, she needs to hire at least 10 staff members. So X is the number of juniors, Y is the number of seniors. It says at least 10, that means greater than or equal to 10. So that's another inequality. Look, A has it backwards. A has less than or equal to 10. So we already know that B is the winner. But just for fun, we can see here, we know she's paying $640 per each junior and $880 again for each senior. And this is supposed to be no more, meaning less than or equal to $9,700. This is, of course, verified here. Boom, done. In the equation above, A, B, C, and D are constants. If the equation has roots at -1, -3, and 5, which of the following is a factor of ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d? When it says it has roots, that means it zeroes out at these values. What is that really saying? It means that if we could factor this, we would have to have x minus -1, x minus -3, and x minus 5 all as factors. Why? Because when they're roots, it means that if you plug in -1, you'll zero out the entire polynomial. Remember, double negative is the same as plus. Double negative is the same as plus. So we have x plus 1, x plus 3, x minus 5. Those have to be factors. Now, in the answer choices, I don't see x plus 3. I don't see x minus 5, but I do see x plus 1. That means B is the winner. Done. Which of the following consists of the y coordinates of all the points that satisfy the system of inequalities above? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and bridge these two inequalities together. I'm not going to do straight substitution like I would for a system of equations, but something similar. So first, I see that everything has to be in terms of y for the answers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first inequality and I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and I get y plus 1 is greater than 2x. And that's cool because the second inequality is 2x is greater than 5. Since 2x is greater than 5, I can kind of make this nice compound inequality. So since y plus 1 is greater than 2x, which is greater than 5, I also know that y plus 1 must be greater than 5. Last but not least, subtract 1 from both sides, and I get y has to be greater than 4, which means B is the winner. Boom, done. What is the solution set of the equation above? Okay, we can again plug and chug, or we can solve the good old-fashioned way. So I'm going to solve the good old-fashioned way first, and then I'll show you how you can plug and chug as well. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides, so I get 2x plus 6 equals x, And what's 3 minus 4? It's negative 1 or minus 1. Then I'm going to square both sides, but don't forget to FOIL here. So that negates the square root, which is pretty cool. And on this side, I get x minus 1 times x minus 1, which of course becomes x squared minus x, which is minus 2x, and then plus 1, equals 2x plus 6. Then I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides and subtract 2x from both sides. Boom. And I get 0 equals x squared. That becomes minus 4x, right? It's like you're combining two negative 2's. Minus 4x minus 5, right? Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. Then I'm going to factor this. 0 equals, boom, boom. What multiplies to negative 5 and adds to negative 4? That would be negative 5 and positive 1, which means my solutions are 5 and negative 1. But with the radical, we have to check for extraneous solutions. Right off the bat, I don't know where they got 0 from, so D is out, but now we can check these answers. So we're going to plug them back in. So we're going to go to the original equation. If I plug in 5, I get 10 plus 6, which is the square root of 16 plus 4, equals 5 plus 3. Square root of 16 is 4. 4 plus 4 is indeed 8. 5 is legit. That means we can discount A. Now I'm going to plug in negative 1 and see if we get a legit solution as well. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2 plus 6 is 4. And square root of 4 plus 4 equals, we would get negative 1 plus 3. Okay, square root of 4 is 2. And remember, we're taking the positive root only in these questions. This is very important to remember on the SAT. So it's 2 plus 4 equals negative 1 plus 3. This is not a legitimate solution. So negative 1 is out. B is the winner. Done. Now, just FYI, instead of solving this, yes, we could have gone straight to plugging these in. And the reason why I think that's actually a good strategy here is because you have to do that anyways in these types of problems. You have to go in and verify if there's an extraneous solution or not. So there's my 2 cents. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to f of x over g of x? Now, this is just a nice little condition that they put in place to make sure you don't get a denominator of 0 or something else. You don't really have to pay too much attention to it. All we're going to do is we're going to stack these guys like so. Boom, x squared minus 2x minus 3. Now, what do I say in situations like this? Factor, factor, factor. Just don't even think about it. So the top, you can factor out an x. And the bottom, it's a nice trinomial. You can think what multiplies to negative 3 and adds to negative 2. Well, that would be negative 3 and positive 1. But what about this? Oh, this is a difference of squares. So you can factor this again. So that becomes x minus 3, x plus 3 over x minus 3 times x plus 1. And we're going to cancel, and we're left with x times x plus 3 over x plus 1, which gives us the answer of D. Done. But if you want a backup solution, we can come back to this point. You're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to factor. I'm just kind of stuck. Again, we can choose a value for x and plug and chug. Now, is this going to be the best thing to do in this situation when we got these types of exponents and all this stuff, especially on the no calculator? No. But if you can't remember what to do, go for it. So for example, we can plug in 2. So 2 would be 2 cubed would be 8 minus 18, which would be negative 10 on top. On the bottom, it'd be 4 minus 4, which is 0 over negative 3. So we can see that when we plug in 2, we should get positive 10/3. Okay, if I plug in 2 here, I get 1/3. Nope. If I plug in 2 here, I get 5/3. Nope. Plug in 2 here, I get 2 minus 3 is negative 1 times 2 is negative 2 over 2 plus 1, which is negative 2/3. Nope. But if I plug in 2 here, I get 2 plus 3, which is 5, times 2 is 10 over 2 plus 1, aka 10/3. Boom, done. In the xy plane, the graph of the equation above is a circle. A point P is on the circle and has coordinates 10, negative 5. If PQ is a diameter of the circle, what are the coordinates of point Q? Okay, so the most important thing to remember here is that a diameter has to go through the center. So we're going to draw a quick little circle like so. And we're going to start to plot out some of these details. So first of all, what's the center of this circle? Oh, remember, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals, whoops, r squared. That's the standard form for a circle. Boom. And in this case, h comma k is the center. So 6 comma negative 5 is the center. Let's get that in the mix. 6 comma negative 5. Now they're saying that 10 negative 5 is the coordinate of point P, which is on the circle. Let's place it here. 10 negative 5. Next, they're saying that we've got a diameter coming from here going straight across to here. There's our diameter. Last but not least, it wants us to find the coordinate of this point, which would be point Q. Now, of course, since this is the radius squared, we know the radius is 4, but you can kind of see that this distance has to be 4 anyways. Well, it becomes pretty obvious once you get to this point that this point is going to be, just like this is 4 to the right, no change in the y, this is going to be 4 to the left. So all I got to do is take 4 away from that 6, and I get coordinate Q, which is 2, negative 5, boom, done. A group of 200 people went on an overnight camping trip, taking 60 tents with them. Some of the tents held 2 people, and the rest held 4 people. Assuming all the tents were filled to capacity and every person got to sleep in the tent, exactly how many of the tents were 2-person tents? So we're going to make a little table. 2-person tents I'm going to represent as X. 4-person tents I'm going to represent as Y. Now, we said that there are 60 tents total in the question. So that means X plus Y is going to equal a total of 60. We also know that for the capacity, we're trying to hold 202 people. Now we bring these values into the mix. Every X tent is going to hold 2 people. Every Y tent is going to hold 4 people. So these expressions now give me the number of people in X and the number of people in Y. If I add these together, it should equal that full amount of people, which is 202. Guess what? We got an amazing system of equations. Now we're trying to solve for X. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use elimination, and I'm going to try and get rid of the Y because that'll make my life a little easier. If I multiply by negative 4, I get negative 4x minus 4y equals negative 240, right? Don't forget to multiply the negative 4 times that. Now we add these together. Goodbye y's. Negative 2x, negative 4x plus 2x is negative 2x equals negative 240 plus 202 is negative 38. And then we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. X equals 19. Boom, done. But we're going to verify now. If X is 19, of course, that means Y equals 41. So now we can see that that satisfies the first equation. Does it satisfy the second? Well, again, it would be 2 times 19 plus 4 times 41. This is supposed to equal 202. So let's see. 2 times 19 is 38. 4 times 41 is 164. When we add them together, we get 2, 10, and 2. Boom, done. The circle above has center O, and the length of arc ADC, which is this arc here, is 5 pi. And it says X equals 100. What is the length of arc ABC? Arc ABC is this guy. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to calculate the circumference by using arc length formula. So arc length formula is as follows. Central angle over 360, the full angle going all the way around, times 2 pi radius, aka the circumference, equals the arc length, which in this case is 5 pi. This reduces to 10 over 36, which is the same as 5 over 18 times 2 pi r. Equals 5 pi. Multiply both sides by the reciprocal, 18 over 5. Cancel, cancel. 2 pi r equals cancel, cancel, 18 pi. Now, I can solve for the radius, that's fine, but guess what? If I have circumference already as 18 pi, I don't really need it because watch, now I can plug it in again for arc length formula for this guy. Because if I know this is 100 degrees, this central angle for this arc length is 260, 360 minus 100. So now I can say 260 over 360 times a circumference of 18 pi is going to give me the arc length that I need. Again, let's reduce this fraction. 26 over 36 reduces to 13 over 18 times 18 pi. And this is nice because the 18s cancel out. We're left with 13 pi. B is the winner. Done. If 8 over x equals 160, what is the value of x? I'm going to straight up isolate. So in this case, we're going to multiply both sides by x. Boom, boom. cancel that out. 8 equals 160x. Last but not least, I'm going to divide both sides now by 160. So straight up variable isolation principles. But then guess what? They put it as a decimal, not a fraction. While that's a little bit unfortunate, I know it has to be D because these are all greater than 1, so that doesn't make sense. But if you want double verification, check this out. I'm going to reduce this fraction, divide the top and bottom by 8, and I get 1 over 20. Then I can multiply by 5 to make it easier to turn it into a decimal, and that's 5 hundredths. Guess what? The 5 is in the hundredth spot. Boom, done. In the equation above, a is a constant. If no value of x satisfies the equation, what is the value of a? So what does this mean? It's very important to understand what this means. It means that we should get on the left side and the right side equivalent values of x. So like if I got 3x on the left, I need 3x on the right. But then the constants need to differ. So it's kind of like two linear equations where the slopes are the same, but the y-intercepts are different. Next, we're going to simplify the right side. 2ax minus 15 equals 3x plus 15 plus 5x minus 5. Combine like terms. 2ax minus 15 equals 8x plus 10. Okay, we already see that the y-intercepts or those constants are different. So we're good there. All we need to do is get these guys to equal each other. And as long as a is 4, they will be the same, which means C is the winner. Done. A system of 3 equations is graphed in the xy plane. How many solutions does the system have? So these points are trying to mislead you. These are the intercepts. Those are irrelevant. Yes, there's an intersection there, but that's only 2 of the lines. The only place where all 3 of them intersect is right here. So that would be the only legitimate solution, which means there's 1, B is the winner. Done. The equation above is true for all x where a and b are constants. What is the value of a times b? Again, don't overthink this one. You see this side is all multiplied out. This side is not. Let's multiply out the left side. We go boom, 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 and we get 5ax cubed minus abx squared plus 4ax. And now we do this guy. 3 times 5 is, and look how I'm going to write it, 15x squared, kind of grouping so that the x squareds are lined up, right? Minus 3bx plus 12. Okay, it's pretty cool. Now we can start to match the terms. You see the only x cubed terms are these guys, and they're equivalent on both sides. That means a has to equal 4. All right, great. Now I can look at either these two in comparison to this, or these two in comparison to this. I'm just going to look at the negative 2x. Why not? So negative 2x has to equal 4ax minus 3bx because these are the only x terms on the left side. That's the only x term on the right side. They're supposed to be equivalent, so it's gotta roll like that. And since I already know a is 4, this means 16x minus 3bx has to equal negative 2x. Again, we can now subtract 16x from both sides by using our variable isolation principles. Negative 3bx now equals negative 18x. Divide both sides by negative 3x. Boom, boom, cancel, cancel. And the x's cancel out, and I get b equals 6. So then they say, what is the value of AB, aka a times b? 4 times 6 is 24. Boom, done. What are all the values of x that satisfy the equation above? Okay, so normally what I would do is I'd multiply both sides by the denominator, but in this case, I actually am going to factor first because I can see the top is a difference of squares. So we're going to factor that out as x minus 1, x plus 1. And if you're not sure as to why this is this factored, well, if you FOIL it, you'll see you get x squared plus x minus x, cancel out, minus 1. So it goes back, it's legit. And then we get x minus 1 equals negative 2. Check this out. Cancel, cancel. Look at this nice equation we have now. X plus 1 equals negative 2. And subtract 1 from both sides, we get x equals negative 3. So we know that negative 3 is a legit solution, which means b and c have to be out. But then the question is negative 1 legitimate? So just in case, just if you're like a little bit concerned, hey, does negative 1 work? You can plug it in and you see you get negative 1 squared, which is 1. 1 minus 1 over negative 1 minus 1. Does that equal negative 2? No, because 1 minus 1 is 0. So 0 does not equal negative 2. A is the winner. Boom, done. The graph of f of x is shown in the xy plane. What's the value of f of 0? This is function notation. What does this mean? Look, they replace the x with a 0. So what they're saying is, what is the function value, aka what is the y value at x equals 0? X equals 0 is on the y-axis, aka y-intercept. 4 is the winner. Done. In the figure above, point B lies on a D. Boom. What is the value of 3x? Okay, here's the dealio. We know that this is a right angle, aka 90 degrees. Well, if this is a straight line, we then know that this is also 90 degrees as well. That's nice because now I can create an equation because I know x plus 2x plus 2x, which comprise this whole thing, must equal 90. So let's do that. X plus 2x plus 2x equals 90, aka 5x equals 90. Divide by 5, divide by 5. Again, my mental math trick for dividing by 5, you move the decimal over 1 and then you double it. So that's 18. But they're not asking for x, they're asking for 3x. And you notice I underlined it. Probably should have boxed it because we want to make sure we don't miss that. So what's 3x? 3 times 18, 54. Done. Which of the following is an equation of line L in the xy plane above? Now again, you can go through the equations and kind of figure out which one's which, but what is it? It's in standard form. So I'm going to do what I like to do. I'm going to create my equation from scratch in slope-intercept form and then put it into standard form. So guess what? It's got a slope that is negative and it looks like it's going down 1 to the right 1. That's a slope of negative 1. So it's negative x with a y-intercept of negative 4, okay? To get it into standard form, all I got to do is add x to both sides, and I get x plus y equals negative 4. How nice is that? I don't have to check anything. I just know straight up that the answer is C. Boom, done. The graph of y equals 2x squared plus 10x plus 12 is shown. If the graph crosses the y-axis at point 0, k, what is the value of k? So this is pretty straightforward because what are they really asking? What's the y-intercept? Now, you might have an idea, but all I would encourage you to do is we know that 0 is the value of x when we're hitting the y-intercept. So plug and chug, plug 0 in. Y equals 2 times 0 squared is, of course, 0. 10 times 0 is 0. So just everything goes away. Y equals 12, meaning the value of k is 12. Boom, done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please click that like button. And if you want to see more from the Scalar Learning channel, make sure to click subscribe. Thank you guys so much, and I wish you all the best of luck on the SAT. Take it easy.